Hi, friends, and welcome back to the podcast. So this is a brand new series that we're starting, and it's called On Becoming, the Art and Craft of Personal Storytelling. In this series, we'll dig deep into college essays from past students, talk about why we love them and how they came to be. And for me, this title, On Becoming, is not just about the craft of writing, like how a story came to be, but it speaks to what I believe the personal statement is at its best, which is a record of a student's becoming. The beautiful, sometimes messy, hopefully meaningful process of students learning to better understand themselves and articulate their values and really find their voice in the world. So whether you're a student, parent, or counselor, I hope you find something meaningful in this series. In this first episode, I sit down with Amanda McRaven, who is one of my dearest, oldest friends and happened to be my first hire at College Essay Guy as an essay coach. Amanda's an artist, a teacher, a director, a storyteller. She lives in the Pacific Northwest, and she's a veteran educator with over 15 years experience helping coach students through this college essay process. But what I love about Amanda is her approach to this process. She treats it like an art form and helps students mine their lives for meaning, to find those awesome gems in seemingly ordinary moments and help students connect the dots between their experiences. And I love working with her. In our conversation, we get into two of our favorite essays. One is called the My Desk essay. That wasn't the title of it. That's the title we give it to just refer to it. And the other is an essay about magic. So you'll get a little behind the scenes look of how these came to be, and we'll nerd out on some college essay stuff, as you'll see. And we hope you enjoy. Hi, Amanda. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Ethan. Good to be here.
I feel really excited to see you. And I wanted to just give a little context for folks about how 10 years ago, now going on 11,
Yep.
I had just started College Essay Guy, and I was like needing some help because I had more students than I could work with. And so I reached out to you. You were my first call. And I know you know this, but yeah, happy dance. I know you know this, but I just want to say, like, thanks for saying yes. And thanks for being my, friend and colleague and like, I don't know, midnight texting about an essay person over all these years, because it's been such a ride.
It has been a ride. It's a wild. When I'm prepped for this, I was just looking back over documents, and when you're in the water, you don't see it. But all these things came back of the early days when we would talk about every essay and have multiple reviews. And I only had, I think, like 3 kids that first year. So yeah. Wild to have been part of it for so long.
So wild. Well, thanks for sitting and appreciating these essays with me for a few minutes. In terms of context, we're going to talk about 2. So neither one of these has a title, by the way. We refer to the first one as My Desk because, well, you'll find out soon, and the second one as Magic. And we were kind of trying to decide, is there a theme here? Mm-hmm. And we think that you tell me, what is it that you saw these students as having in common when we thought about it here?
Both of these students for me are STEM focused. They were going into STEM careers, but are really tapped into their creativity in these essays. Mm-hmm. So when you work with a lot of STEM students, as I do, you often have more of a straightforward essay, which is totally fine. These 2 students in particular, I think, wouldn't consider themselves creative, but I think both students did an amazing job finding their creative voice and showing a unique take. Like you don't feel like you're reading a STEM personal essay. Yeah. You're just going on a ride.
Will you say the thing you said about your brand at CEG?
Yeah, my brand is, so background, they probably heard the bio, but my background is creative writing, it's theater and creative writing. So my brand at CAG, where I've been happily pigeonholed, is to work with STEM students on finding their creativity.
And why do you think that is? Like, what do you make up about that?
I think because I've been here for so long, we also have these archetypes at CAG, gardener, architect. Is there a third?
Yeah, there's gardener, and then we added, so we went explorer for like the sort of wandery, and then there's sort of like the architect one, and then we sort of settled on gardener as the middle of the Venn diagram.
Yeah, so I've always been a gardener, which is like, all right, you've got this awesome list of brainstorming. Let's roll up our sleeves and dig in there. What's popping out for me? And I also really pride myself on in the first session, because I think because of my creative background, I see the metaphor pop out for montage. Most students I work with are montage. So I see what the thing is, the frame that's going to hold the essay together. And without fail, you always see the students go, whoa, cool.
Yeah.
And then we fill in the content.
Right. How did this, before we read it, we're going to read it here in a minute, but how did the My Desk essay come to be? Do you remember?
Yeah, I was looking back at the earliest drafts, and the student started with, I'm going to leave a gap. Should I leave out gender? Should I just keep saying the student? Or
does he, I think he genders himself in the essay. Yeah, he says 12-year-old kid became a 12-year-old man. So I think we're fine.
Okay, good. Going back. So this student started with TED Talks as the frame.
Okay.
And it was something like, you wouldn't look at me, you wouldn't think I'm a TED Talk guru.
Uh-huh.
And what I also love about this essay is I could find everything that he wrote about originally. We found a way to work in this really lovely, organic way.
Yeah.
So he was also really game for how do I make this more creative? And he came, I can't remember if I think the desk was on the list of essence objects, but I think he came up with what if I talked about making the desk?
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's read it and let's let folks know what the heck we're talking about. And for those of you listening, if you want to find this essay, you'll find it in the show notes if you want to kind of follow along. But I love your voice. I love your reading voice. Would you be down to just read this for us?
Sure.
Awesome.
6 years ago, a scrawny 12-year-old took his first steps into Home Depot, the epitome of manliness. As he marched through the wood section, his eyes scrolled past the options. Red oak? No, too ubiquitous. Pine? Nah, too banal. Mahogany? Perfect. It would nicely complement his walls. As days went on, the final product was almost ready. 91-degree angles had been perfected to 90. Drawer slides had been lubricated 10 times over. Finally, the masterpiece was finished, and the little boy couldn't help but smile. A scrawny 12-year-old kid had become a scrawny 12-year-old man. This desk I sit at has not only seen me through the last 6 years, but its story and the story of the objects I keep on it provide the foundation for my future pursuits.
So I just want to pause real quick and say, what's your reaction?
I almost laughed reading it, and I've looked at this essay hundreds of times. But another thing I just love so much about students when they have access to it is tapping into humor.
Yeah.
And this student was particularly good at self-effacing humor. Mm-hmm. And so I just love a scrawny 12-year-old kid became a scrawny 12-year-old man.
I instantly love him and instantly want to know him. And it's a quality that I've realized over the years is there are essays that do this and essays that don't do this. And I don't think every single essay needs to do it, but when it happens and it's good and it just my heart just bursts open. And I love the launch line right after that of this desk I sit at has not only seen me for the last 6 years, but its story and the story of the objects. And I'm like, okay, provide a foundation for my future pursuits. Exactly. I'm like, here we go. And it sets us up beautifully.
And it's one of the best opening paragraphs I've seen in essay work because it already sticks so much about this person into it.
Totally.
There's so much personality and detail that if that was the whole essay, you'd be like, that's awesome.
Yeah, totally. There's I didn't know if we were going to analyze it as we go or at the end. If anybody's feeling frustrated, I'm really sorry, but we were just so excited about this opening paragraph. So I love the little ways that he's signaling his intelligence, using words like ubiquitous and banal. And it's subtle, but there's these little, signal moments that's giving me trust. I trust that this student is making choices. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, take us wherever.
I also love how he says, perfect. It would nicely complement his walls like a young interior decorator. He's just like, he's not afraid from the beginning to be like, I'm a nerd.
Yes,
I
yes, yes.
love it.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's keep going.
Second, story of the objects that keep on it provide a foundation for my future pursuits. My trustworthy 5-year-old laptop sits in the center of the desk. From accompanying me on my ventures to track null pointer errors in my apps to playing classic Billy Joel after a rough day, my laptop is my first choice vehicle as I drive through a life of curiosity. Whether executing my simulations of stress analysis tests, teaching me how to make an origami lily, or showing me a TED Talk on why people find it difficult to poop away from home, my laptop has allowed me to find different versions of myself. Though I will probably call myself an engineer someday, my heart is in so many different places. I'm a philosopher, a historian, an economist, a black belt in Taekwondo, a techie, a farmer, a teacher, an inventor, an entrepreneur, a TED Talk lover, and a sports enthusiast. With each Google search, a new world opens.
I'm going to say let's read to the end and then we'll come back and talk
Great.
about it. Great.
To my left is a stack of books. To earn a coveted top spot in the stack, the winning book has to have taught me a life lesson or made me cry. Currently, the book on top is The Way of the Seal by Mark Divine. Divine's memoir details the training required to become an elite warrior and how that mentality can be applied to success in all aspects of life: social, mental, physical, and spiritual. Like Divine, I try to avoid a tunnel vision attitude and consider the implications of my actions on society at large as a leader and a role model. While running my company, a nonprofit that kindles interest in STEM around the world, I've been particularly guided by the principle of leading from the battlefield. This mantra of collaborative leadership helps me facilitate many processes, from managing social media to collaborating with potential investors. I'm also reminded to sometimes take a step back in the midst of a crisis and let the universe give me answers. To the right of the books is a bead bracelet, identical to the ones my parents and brother wear. When I look at it, I remember my parents' secret sign language as I stood on the stage of FBLA Nationals. 1 thumbs up means remember to breathe. 2 thumbs up means remember to smile for photos. Regardless, I forgot to smile for the photo. When I look at the bracelet, I also see my little brother tugging on me, asking me countless questions as I repair my cube stacking robot. What's that weird looking spinny thing? It's obviously a 0.81 pound, 5 millimeter shaft diameter, 5,700 RPM, 35 ounce install torque, 22 amp stall current, brushless DC motor. Duh. One day you'll find me in a corner office somewhere running a couple of different tech startups. But the desk I'll be sitting at is the same one. I never want to forget that. At heart, I'm a confident, skinny little nerd, unafraid and eager to take my next Home Depot trip. Just delightful.
OMG.
OMG. Just so juicy.
There's so much here.
Yeah.
I'm glad we read through the whole thing because I would have stopped every sentence.
I know.
Okay. So let's zoom back, big picture. We've got an essay that starts off, the desk is introduced, and then he says the story and the story of the objects. We'll get into the paragraphs in a second, but paragraph 2 is about the laptop. Yep. Paragraph 3 is about the stack of books. Yep. Paragraph 4 is the bead bracelet, and then we've got the short conclusion. So that's just to sort of give everybody the 35,000-foot view. So let's zoom into paragraph 2. What do you notice in this laptop paragraph?
What I love about this is, so it's tricky for students to write about laptops. You usually have cell phones or laptops on an essence objects list, and it's tricky. And so I do remember early on being like, all right, tell me more about this. Like, yes, it's part of your life, but it's also part of every other student's life who's doing it. And so I challenged him, like, why should we use the laptop? And what I love about that second paragraph is that curiosity value. Like, he shows you in the syntax, in the way he's put the sentences together, the curiosity. It just like, curiosity just like leaps out at you. I also love, another thing not all students can do, but if you can do it well, you should, is lists.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And this came from, like, he had so much good stuff. I remember challenging him to get lists in here and not being afraid of. So this, I'm a philosopher historian. I remember that coming from me. I'm like, can you just list all the stuff that you are that you identify as? And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, go for it. And there's something so delicious about that list.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I also think this essay is such a good example of like, you do these essence objects and like, I think he jammed like every essence object in, like it's all in there because he had the skill to really be able to not make it just sound like a list.
Right.
I mean, because he's playing with sentence variety, he's playing with rhythm, he's playing with word choice. So
Mhm.
I just think it's such a delightful like manifestation of curiosity.
Totally. And I think that quality is a really important anchor for the whole paragraph,
Yeah.
because I think otherwise it could feel like, wow, this is a lot, and it goes in a lot of different directions. But that word curiosity, which anchors us at the end of the second sentence, which I'm going to reread, from accompanying me on my ventures to track null pointer errors in my apps, which is signaling in one direction, intellectual curiosity, to playing classic Billy Joel after a rough day, which is totally not something that you would put on your activities list. And I
Yeah.
just want to say to students who are lots of activities and you're like, how do I stand out? Include random stuff that would never be in your activities list. Like the fact that you listen to Billy Joel also is going to score bonus points, I think, with the reader.
If you're 18 and you've mentioned Billy Joel.
Totally. And I'm not saying that these should all be techniques that every student should do, but I think it's part of, like, if I'm tracking for like what's endearing me to this author, it's little details, little moments like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he says, my laptop is my first choice vehicle as I drive through a life of curiosity. There's a beautiful, like, in the Shakespearean sense, like a driving rhythm to the sentence that sort of carries us through. And if you notice that sentence, nobody else is going to write that sentence.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
And for students who are listening, I want to just encourage you to like write sentences that no one else would write. And, in fact, when you hear this, as we're reading these, you'll see that's true for many of the sentences. And I think it's especially true if you're writing about something like your dang laptop.
And it's not about the laptop. That's the other thing I always talk to students in montage. Like, it's your topic is not your laptop. Your laptop is
Amen.
a way into what you're really trying to say, to your values.
Right.
So I think that's what the student was able to really get underneath, like ask the why.
Totally. The other thing, I love the list too. There's one of the things that we'll sometimes do and I'll sometimes encourage is like just brainstorm broadly, like whatever, 10 things that could go in. And this is useful in like the short answers and stuff.
Yeah.
And then choose a few of them to show just a variety of things. So it's sort of like you're bringing the little sampler platter of this side of you. But I love
to include the word poop. We have to mention that.
I mean, that's a calculated risk that students would be like, can I do that? And I think it's great. I mean, I think it's great. And did he ask about it? I don't know if you remember any.
I think he was like, can I put this in?
Yeah.
And it is a TED Talk. Students, if you're listening, I hope you've already Googled, but if you haven't, just Google TED Talk, pooping away from home. It's a real TED Talk.
He subtly then weaves in his future major, which I think students sometimes were like, how do I do that? He says, though I'll probably call myself an engineer someday, and it's fine to say probably.
Yes.
My heart is in so many different places. And then he's got this long list of roles and identities. And even before I was on the roles and identities tip, and if you follow the podcast or our YouTube videos, you've seen me talk about this. I looked back at this essay and I was like, yo, roles and identities, it was there all along.
All along.
So there are so many different sides of himself that he brings forward, all of which are a manifestation of this curiosity. So here's a quick, like, what you can learn from this. If you're going to go all over the place in a paragraph, what can you anchor it with? Mm-hmm. What's going to ground us so that we kind of go, okay, that's the mini lens within the larger lens of this essay,
Yeah.
And then he's got these long sentences. And then, like you said, it goes to a short one. With each Google search, a new world opens. And it makes me excited about what other worlds he might explore.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing just along that is it's important for students to remember how readers are reading these essays, right? They're reading so many. Yeah. And so, if you're varying your sentence structure, that you're going to rhythmically shake up their day and they're going to read more closely. Totally. So playing with rhythm is really important.
Yeah. And what's nice about this little tiny sentence here is it's a little moment that gives us some context for reading that long list of identities. Teacher, inventor, entrepreneur, TED Talk lover, and a sports enthusiast. Pause. He could have ended the paragraph and just gone to the next object, a stack of books.
Yeah.
But he gives a tiny little so what that's like 8 words long. With each Google search, a new world opens. And I want to just say to students, like, that's such a nice, I think, key moment at the end of a paragraph. You've shared a lot of stuff. We want to know what the impact on you, like, give us a way to read that. Give us a way to look at it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So to his left is a stack of books, and he focuses in on this book, The Way of the Seal by Mark Devine. A lot to talk about in this paragraph. What do you notice? What do you zero in on here?
So this came from his nonprofit was really important to him. I think this is a great example of writing about an activity from your activities list that you're gonna write an extracurricular essay about.
Yeah.
But you really want to mention it in your main statement because it felt inauthentic to him. He's like, well, I have to talk about this as part of my identity. So then the challenge was it cannot overlap with what you're going to say in an extracurricular essay. Mm-hmm. And he did a beautiful job with that. I think the other thing he did a beautiful job with was like, The Way of the Seal might be considered sort of a typical book. Like it's a self-improvement. Like a lot of students are going to read like self-improvement books, but he was able to really concretely connect it to what he's doing. I love that the 2 criteria are taught me a life lesson or made me cry.
Too.
So there he's getting into vulnerability.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, which we're not expecting. We think it's, going to be more about life lessons. Mm-hmm. I like that. I think he does a really good job. Also I looked at an early draft and he was talking a lot about Mark Devine. So I think that's what students will fall into also. So he said Devine's memoir details the training required to become an elite warrior and how the mentality can be applied to success in all aspects of life, social, mental, physical, and spiritual. That's not really a book report sentence. That's these are the values that are important to me. Yeah. And Devine talks about that. Then like Devine, I try to avoid a tunnel vision attitude and consider the implications of my actions as society at large as a leader and a role model. Again, just really really good insights there. Like what's a deep personal connection to what he's reading.
The thing that he's doing there, 2 things. One is that he's trimmed the book report, as you called it so rightly, to 1 sentence, basically.
Yeah.
And that's, again, side note to students, if you're going to talk about someone else that's important to you in your life, your coach, your grandma, this book, this place, like, give us 1 sentence, you know what I mean? Just give us the bare bones context and let it do double duty for you by weaving in values. So here's what success means to me in all these different areas. And then he zooms in on this notion of trying to avoid this tunnel vision attitude and considering the implications of his actions on society at large. What he's doing there too is he's setting up for the mention of the nonprofit. So for students wondering, how do I weave in my extracurricular activities? Give us a value, something to focus on.
Yeah.
Like a magic trick, which we'll get into in a little bit. Give us something to focus on here. So we're looking at that. Oh, considering your implications of society at large. Because what it does is it, I think, raises an implicit question for us. It's like, oh, how do you do that elsewhere? And then you come in with, well, running my company, a nonprofit that kindles interest in STEM around the world. And then it's like, okay, here's an example of where you do that in your world, in your life. And he really just mentions it there, and he doesn't really get into details about the nonprofit because, like you said, he's going to go into it elsewhere in his application.
And the mantra of collaborative leadership. So he does talk about his leadership style. He also applied, I think, to UCs, but for students doing both, UCs don't see your personal statement. So he could poach from this paragraph in his leadership essay for UCs, where they ask you to talk about leadership style. So just as a side note.
Students who have listened to the podcast, or I'll just say counselors, we have this thing that we talk about called admission nutrients. Admission nutrients are qualities that, after doing lots and lots of research and talking to admission folks, we find that colleges are really interested in seeing. 2 of those qualities are collaboration and leadership. This was written before, we sort of settled on those qualities, but this combining them is really beautiful here. Collaborative leadership. And then again, we wonder, okay, what are some examples of that? And he says this mantra of collaborative leadership helps me facilitate many processes, like managing social media to collaborating with potential investors. So you can notice this back and forth. Sometimes the value or the thing that you want to show is mentioned first and then the examples. And sometimes you've got the examples and then the value. So either of those can work. And then again, so what at the end of the paragraph? So what do you want us to take away? What do you want us to know? Stick the landing here. He says, I'm also reminded to sometimes take a step back in the midst of a crisis and let the universe give me the answers. What do you notice about that line?
That is the surprising but inevitable.
Yeah.
You have always talked about in sticking the landing. So I think students will often come in and try to wrap the paragraph up with a repeat, just a retelling of what they've already said.
Right.
Such a great, here's what I've been talking about. And here's just that bump at the end. Let the universe give me the answers. Not expecting that.
Yeah, totally. And it seems to me that this is an instance where it's kind of the opposite of what we expect, because we think of leadership oftentimes as like having the answers and knowing and making the decision. And one of the things that I'll sometimes and will sometimes encourage is like, okay, think of the opposite. Like, what are the instances where you don't know, or you can't make the decision, or you're uncertain? What's the value in the opposite of that? Because that can really show that, divergent thinking.
Absolutely. And let the universe give me the answers also is a nice transition. We don't know it's a transition yet, but transitions us to the last paragraph is a more contemplative, personal space, not about self-improvement or intellectual pursuits.
Yeah. What do you notice in this paragraph? In the bead bracelet with brother, with family?
So a big thing in working on montage is the it's usually three, sometimes it's four. The sections are three different sides of you, mirror ball, three different mirrors on the ball.
Yeah, cool.
And so the challenge here was like, all right, what is another side of you we have not talked about at all that we want to show? And Bead Bracelet was on his object list, and he was like, my family's really important to me. I think this paragraph is great for students to look at, because a lot of students will write about family. And if that's really important to you, you should write about family. How do you write about your family? And I think he does a beautiful job here about the value of support.
Totally.
That he shows it. So show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Also a beautiful example of showing, not telling. We're all going to write about support from our family when we're teenagers. That's what we know. So do that. Awesome. How are you showing it? What does it look like specifically in your family?
And there's something here that's a screenwriting technique, and it's called the private moment. And you'll sometimes see this in movies where a character has a thing where they experience it publicly, and then they shut the door behind them, and you see them in the bathroom or whatever, and they just break down. Or they open the note and they read it and they react. And what it does for us as viewers, or in this case as readers, is we're in the secret world with them. And so what he's doing is he's bringing in us to him and his parents' secret sign language. And we're getting to see that he's translating one thumb up, remember to breathe, which is just really endearing. And two means remember to smile for the photos. And then he does that self-effacing humor again, regardless, I forgot to smile for the photo. So if this is a technique that I don't talk about a lot, but it's like, if there is, kind of an essay is like a private moment, that's the whole deal with a personal statement, but it's sort of a personal, it's a private moment within the private moment of the personal essay of here's something that not many people know about. And it's the secret language, and you can feel their love for each other, the way they care for one another.
Yeah. And I remember this being a tricky one to try to get underneath cliches of family. I think this paragraph took the most work out of the three of them. What specifically happens with you and your family?
Yeah. That's good to know, because I think sometimes people think these just kind of show up and it's just oh yeah, he just wrote this.
Yeah, this was a lot of drafts. Yeah, it's a lot of the process, the gardener process, is how are we getting underneath what's there? This is awesome. Great. Now let's make your story of your family stand out from the other person's story of their family.
Right.
Same value, right? You're going to meet a million essays. read a million essays about family support as a value,
Right.
but how you show it is
Mm-hmm.
what makes it stand out for your reader.
And I like that there's both his parents supporting him, and then he
Yeah.
flips it in the second half of the paragraph.
Yeah.
His brother asking him countless questions about as he repairs his cube stacking robot. And he's doing two things. He's doing intellectual curiosity, and then he's undercutting it with humor again. So the intellectual curiosity is when he's explaining it in this sort of effortlessly, jargon-filled, brilliant way. That's another thing is like, can you show effortless brilliance somewhere?
Yeah.
And he shows effortless brilliance and then ends it with that word duh, which is just a single sentence. What's that weird looking spinny thing? And that, even that opposite of like, here's the way that my little brother sees this, and here's the smarter, more adult version of what this thing actually is. And then he undercuts it again. So there's becomes a theme of humor throughout.
And I think he started that. I think it originally was like, it's a blank motor. And because he had already set up the theme of nerd, I was like, can you really nerd out on that motor? And he had no problem doing that.
Great.
And I don't think students should be afraid of jargon either. Again, you want to make sure your reader's on the journey with you.
Right.
But if you know a lot of really specific stuff about a specific thing, get it in there.
Yeah. And he shows self-awareness about it. So this is something that I've just been watching Avatar with Zola. And one of the things that I noticed in that film is all the moments where somebody gets a little too woo and a little too into sort of the spirituality, you've got somebody undercutting it and being like, yeah, right. Or making some kind of joke about it. And what that does is that it provides for the polarity of experience and of reactions.
Yes.
And as viewers in Avatar, we're like, okay, I don't totally have to buy into this thing. So if anybody's feeling uncomfortable, their view is represented, but maybe in a more extreme way, because we're all going to fall somewhere in the middle. So we're all going to either, kind of understand the geeky part or, be in the, I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
We're all somewhere in the middle. And by showing, by doing something that sort of gives us a meta perspective on the thing, it's an interesting, simple little technique to do, but it gives a little breathing room so that the reader doesn't feel like they're having to buy into or that they're feeling distanced from because they're seeing that you have some perspective on your own nerdiness.
You're acknowledging it. I've never looked up what any of that stuff means. I didn't look it up in the moment because it didn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
As the reader, I was like, I don't care what this means. The point is not for me to understand what it means. The point is for me to know that you really
know what it means,
you know
right?
what it means, and you're laughing at yourself.
Totally. So here he ends with, one day you'll find me in a corner office somewhere running a couple different tech startups. Again, casual brilliance.
Drop it in.
Just casual. But the desk I'll be sitting at is the same one. I never want to forget that at heart, I'm a confident, skinny little nerd, unafraid, and eager to take my next Home Depot trip.
Oh, bring it back to the beginning. Always bring it back.
And it's so satisfying. It's so satisfying to come back.
Yeah.
We, reached out to the student to ask, hey, could we use this?
Yeah.
Do you remember what he said about the desk in the email?
Yeah, I did. I said, because he's graduated already. So I was like, oh, I wonder if he has his desk at his real grown-up house. Yeah. And he was like, no, it's at my parents' house. I was a little sad, I have to say. But you know what? When he's our age, he's going to have that desk with him.
I hope so. I hope because of this podcast, he will have that desk.
He'll go get it when you start to get really nostalgic for your childhood.
Yeah. In fact, if he ever listens to this, I wonder if you would send me a photo of that desk, because if so, we'll just include it.
Yeah, I'd love to see a photo of the desk. I never saw. I mean, I saw it in a Zoom screen. He would show me stacks of books because he really does. The other thing is he really does have these things on his desk.
Yeah.
The stack of books really lived there, and the bead bracelet. So it was delightful. This essay has never left me. The process was so wonderful. Working with the student was so wonderful. He was truly one of my favorites. And it just swims in me. I show it all the time because I think it's so deeply creative, but it's also accessible.
Totally.
Because again, this student would not consider himself a creative writer. And I think, especially if you're a STEM student, trying to access an essay that's clearly written by somebody whose talent is creative writing, you don't know your way in.
Right.
I want students to know here is the way in was the stuff that he's already good at.
Totally.
And then, it was just a process of guiding him to trust putting all of that in there.
Yeah. Helena on our team talks about how this is this feels like I love, she loves showing this to students because it's like, you can do this. Like you can talk about just the objects in your room.
Yeah.
And I think what it takes is, besides the things you mentioned already, I think it takes the willingness to be able to write a couple drafts, to like keep going. Because if you stop at draft 1 or 2, it'll be fine. Probably some sentences that are going to be in somebody else's essay, but it just goes to show what, sticking to it, continuing to refine and okay, what's the next detail? What's something more specific?
Yeah.
What that can yield.
And every paragraph of this, for students to know, started off as more general.
Yeah.
That's always what happened. And then we were digging inside to see what we could access.
All right, let's pivot to the second essay.
Yeah.
This one, again, has no title, and you don't need titles in your essays. We refer to it as magic because that's the theme in it. And yeah, I think let's just jump into it. I'd love to just read it, and then we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Do you want me to read?
I think so. Yeah, I loved hearing you read the other one. I've read this one a lot before, so I'd love to hear you read it.
I've been dabbling in the dark arts for 5 years. My weapon of choice, a set of bicycle cards. Blue if I want to draw attention to the faces, red if I want my audience to focus on the backs. Though my tricks start the same way, square up the deck with my left hand, ask my spectator to shuffle, each then takes on a life of its own, sleight of hand, mathematical, and self-working, or a combination. After watching Matt Franco perform on America's Got Talent 5 years ago, I was hooked on the thrill of the unexplainable in card magic. I wondered why people liked magic so much, and rather than sit and ponder, I decided to follow my curiosity into the world of magic itself. When first learning the double lift, I watched tutorials for endless hours on end, constantly rewinding to determine exact thumb positions and wrist motions, fascinated by the nuanced distinctions between success and failure. Eventually, I grew dissatisfied with the full magic routines I saw. They weren't my style. Not enough audience interaction, not enough intense sleight of hand distractions. I decided to develop my own tricks. My first original was a big one. Transport a randomly chosen card from the deck into a sealed basketball. I stayed up late every night for 3 weeks, planning out every wrist turn and card palm. The thrill of sacrificing my sleep and health for something that was my own, and finally seeing the finished product, made me fall in love with inventing. And my love for inventing and exploring didn't stop there. I once spent 3 days studying the science behind rock, paper, scissors. For example, searching for logic behind why humans play as they do, and discovered why 2/3 of males choose rock on their first turn, and why people on a losing cycle almost always choose rock, then paper, then scissors. In my junior year internship, I saw that my mentor was always late to meetings because of his chronic knee pain. After hearing his story and struggles with the healthcare system, I was inspired to come up with a solution to my mentor's knee problems. I worked with a team to create a smart sleeve, a wearable device that aids post-surgery healing by monitoring a knee's activity and sending doctors weekly reports. As a kid who's always loved science, I used my scientific inventions to satisfy my urge to explore the unknown. Not content to pursue inventions simply for the sake of it, I also invent to make people happy. Cooking 3-course meals is my way of spending uninterrupted time with my parents. When we have cause for celebration, I grill veggie burgers topped with my signature sriracha sour cream sauce. When we want to relax, I whip up fluffy scrambled eggs on sourdough bread with veggie turkey. Food, like magic, is my offering to my community. Even when I started, magic has never been just a hobby. Each new trick, each discovery has been an essential way I bring vivacity into my life. But of all my tricks, my favorite is this essay. I said before I use blue cards to focus the audience on faces, red to focus them on backs. The words in this essay have been my red cards, and performing magic is the part I've made you focus on. You've just been fooled by a classic misdirect. For although magic has been my life for so long, what I dream of doing professionally is becoming a neurosurgeon. And magic has actually played a big role in this. It has led me to questioning why people make the choices they do, taught me to approach life with attention to detail, dexterity, and care, and has inspired me to invent with passion. I'm addicted to the adventure and journey of making my own creations, something I will continue to do vigorously in the ever-evolving field of neuroscience.
What?
Delightful.
So good.
This has a cool lineage, because I don't know if you're going to put it on the podcast.
Go.
Put in the show notes the lineage of this is the endodontics essay.
I thought so. Yeah.
Because he loved that. And if you look at them side by side, you can see how he was inspired to not talk about the thing he wanted to do till the end, lead you down this path, and then bring it in. So I love that lineage also.
Yeah. And to give context for folks who are listening, there's an essay that was in College Essay Essentials, in this book I wrote, where the student sort of surprise reveals his career at the end. Spoiler alert, it's endodontics. In the second edition, it's called the Perhaps an Engineer essay, because I didn't want to give away the ending. But there's this sense, and just to again zoom up, like the student is essentially revealing different qualities along the way.
Yeah.
And then he surprises us with, and it's all added up to something different. What's different about the endodontics essay is that there's no sort of main thing to focus on that's doing the misdirect.
Yeah.
The endodontics essay is sort of just taking us wandering through his life. But this one gives us a full theme, a satisfying theme that we're enjoying and like relishing. And then suddenly, he pulls back the curtain and it's like, what? You've been doing this whole other thing all along?
Yeah.
And it's so satisfying.
So satisfying. I guess we should talk about the essay first, but my brain also jumped to the comparisons between the two essays and how they're telling similar stories.
Yeah. Go. What do you notice?
A thing that popped out for me was, I haven't read these aloud side by side in a long time, but he's also talking about his family, right? Which we were just saying with the other essay, family and support. Yeah. Same point. So the other student is using the sign language and he's using food. They're saying the same thing. This is how we connect with each other. This is how we take care of each other.
Yeah.
Totally different metaphor. That's what I want all students to know, is like, you all have the same values,
right?
Similar values. You all have very similar life experiences, but what is your way in, and how are you writing about it?
Yeah. How does it find expression in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much. This first line, even, I've been dabbling in the dark arts for 5 years.
I think he just dropped that in. I was trying to remember back, I think. And I was like, here we go. Like, one of the best hooks of all time.
Yeah, I love it. Will you give us, is there any more context that you can remember from working through this process about, he liked this essay, obviously doesn't want to copy it and make it sound too similar, but, tell it just any other context you can give about the process of him writing this piece.
It did not start this way at all. It started with a list of activities, and magic was one of them. Obviously, you see the values of curiosity and invention and exploring. I was looking back at my old notes. I have a note saying thread magic through each paragraph. I think he had been talking about tricks. And so that came up for me as like that. Each trick takes a different approach. Can we use each trick as a way to examine something else in your life? So I'm trying to go back. I'm looking at like this old draft from
As you do that, can I just shout out some things that I love about the start? So he says, I've been dabbling in the dark arts for 5 years. And the ending, the reveal, is in the second paragraph. He buries it. My weapon of choice is a set of bicycle cards. Blue, if I want to draw attention to the faces. Red, if I want my audience to focus on the backs. So he's telling you the trick. He's telling you what he's going to do before he does it. Of course, it's subtle and you won't know it until later. Though my tricks start the same way, each then takes on a life of its own. Sleight of hand, mathematical, and self-working, or a combination. What I love that this student is doing is he's, again, like the other student, he's showing values from the start. And he's weaving in a little bit of in this case, jargon connected to the thing that he loves.
Yeah.
Squaring up the deck, and he's also weaving in things that he loves, mathematical and self-working. So he's already giving jargon so that we sense that he knows some stuff about some stuff. And what it does for me is that it builds trust, like right away. I'm like, oh, he knows what he's talking about when it comes to this. And I think I'm big on screenwriting today. This is another thing with when you first meet the character, in this case, when you first meet the speaker, the author, that's when you're really, you're creating that first impression that's going to live with us. And in this case, it's building trust that he knows some stuff about magic. He doesn't need to wait till paragraph 3 to reveal that. Boom. In the first, 50, 60 words, we get that he knows what he's talking about. Yeah. And then he gives us in a little mini origin story with Matt Franco. Decided to follow my curiosity, explicit mention of value. I watch tutorials for endless hours on end. Another value of meticulousness, sticking with it, constantly rewinding, to determine the exact thumb positions, fascinated by the nuanced distinctions between success and failure.
And also doing a similar thing to what the other writer is doing, like showing you attention to detail.
Yeah.
Which he's doing as he talks about finding the wood for his desk. Here it's like, do I go with thumb this way or this way? What are the nuances? So again, the same things are going on. And it's how we're writing about it.
He's doing that private moment thing again too. And so this is something else, is like, I want to get inside your brain. I want to kind of like read the journal of your brain and know what it's like to see the world through your eyes, through your perspective, and the specifics of it. And we sometimes call this, I want to see your movie. I want to see, like, what is it when you look at magic tricks? What do you see that I don't see? When you're at Home Depot and you're looking at the woods, I don't know the difference between oak and mahogany, but you do. And I love knowing that you do, or even did as a 9-year-old, like those sort of little details help me see, oh, here's somebody that I'm going to be able to like learn from, and that the people in my community on a college campus are going to be able to learn from.
Yeah. He started, looking back at the drafts, he started like much more straightforward, like, here's a value, and that's what I'm going to use this. So he had like the value of coordination, the value of social perceptiveness, the value of complex problem solving. So that's how he eventually found those montage paragraphs, but they were much more, again, just back to what we were saying before, like there's a long process to get here.
Yeah. But it starts with these raw materials, right? The raw materials.
Yeah.
Of the values. And then we go, okay, how does this manifest itself with specifics? I love when he jumps to, in the next paragraph, so we're on the third paragraph now. Eventually I grew dissatisfied with the full magic routines I saw. They weren't my style. He says, why? I decided to develop my own tricks. Now that leap shows another one of those admission nutrients of initiative.
Initiative, yeah.
Of him taking a step to create something for himself. And he's setting up a quality that he doesn't name explicitly until the end of the paragraph.
Yeah.
He gives a specific example of it, but then he says it. It made me fall in love with inventing, which is going to become a big theme in the next, basically the next half of the essay. And it's going to ultimately lead us to, STEM stuff.
Yeah.
But he says, my love for inventing. So he repeats the word in case we missed it. Didn't stop there. He tried to study rock, paper, scissors, and he teaches us some really cool things.
I know that I literally didn't know. That we just want that. We want.
And I want you to know, I think of this every time I play rock, paper, scissors now. I'm like, if I'm playing against a dude, I'm like, this person's probably going to go rock first. And invariably, I'll say about 2/3 of the time it happens. Or if we kind of get off course, I think, okay, did this person just go rock, paper, or scissors? Because sometimes just because that's the way the title goes, someone will go to the next one. So it's my point is that like, he's taught me something, and not only has he taught me something, but it's like stayed with me over the years.
Absolutely. I remember working on this essay too. I was like, don't tell me how to do the tricks. Don't tell me how to do the tricks. Don't tell me. It's like, I love magic and I didn't want to know. And I think he does a really good job of like bringing us in and like taking us to the edge of like getting his thing, but he's not going to tell you all the way. Like this is such a good example of like a really niche thing that everybody's interested in, but you're not giving us too much information about it.
Yeah, I love that too. Yeah, there's this moment. So again, notice that how he's varying up his quote unquote activities. Some are activities that would definitely appear on the activities list, and some are rock, paper, scissors. So he's given us this fun one, rock, paper, scissors. And then he transitions, and he's given us the value of inventing.
Yeah.
And he transitions. In my junior year internship, I saw my mentor was late to meetings because of the chronic knee pain. So I created this cool thing, and it's a couple sentences, but it shows that quality at work. And I think what he buys us with the rock, paper, scissors one is a little bit of like, if he had just been like, I love inventing, and he just listed 3 incredible inventions, I would have been like, this could have been your activities list. But
I know
he's putting in a little bit of, I don't know what food metaphor you want to use, but like something to like, the way that I think of this is like throwing us, forget the food thing, throwing us off the scent of like making it so obvious that he's weaving in his extracurricular activities. He's giving us something that's just like fun and playful and just like,
Yeah, and so connects to the value of exploring the unknown and then supporting community that's coming.
Yeah.
So it's not an activity for the sake of activity. It's an activity that was really important to him
Yeah.
that he wanted to make sure he talked about. But again, like the first writer, it's folded into the bigger story. And I'm sure he wrote an essay about the smart sleeve, but
Yeah.
just this little hint at it. Then I also feel like it's like you're dropping a seed for your reader, where the reader also is like, oh, cool, I'm probably going to get to read an essay about this after I finish this personal statement.
How did you get through 2 essays on STEM without a mention of Legos?
Right? So many Legos.
By the way, to the makers of Lego, I know that it's supposed to be Lego and not Legos, so I just want to name that I know that. But for those of you who are watching and listening and you're like, I'm a STEM student, notice no mention of Lego in here. It's the joke, the sort of inside joke here is that it's just such a common thing. And I mean, I played with Lego, probably many of the people listening did that. But when you're thinking about like what inspired you early on in life and what are some of the unconventional things, a simple thing that you can do is make a big list of what are the 15 to 20 STEM related activities or things that you've done, and put robotics on there, put Lego, put all the things. And then go, okay, which of these maybe isn't going to appear on someone else's list? And maybe it's rock, paper, scissors. Or maybe it's a student a couple of years ago had a Cheetos delivery machine during the pandemic that they created so that they would send, when people would come up to their house, it would just deliver Cheetos out. And I was like, that's a pretty good one. That's an uncommon invention.
You're also naming like spend time with like the things that I work with so many students who they don't even put in their brainstorming, or it doesn't occur to them early on, this like really quirky, interesting thing that they do.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be the first thing that comes up for you. Like, what's a weird thing you do with your friends? And we accomplish the same value that Legos accomplishes, probably.
Right. And that to me speaks to like the value of spending a lot of time brainstorming. And by a lot, I mean more than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, spend that hour and a half, spend that 3 hours, whatever it is, and have fun with it. Like, and for many students are like, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, like spending 3 hours writing. But I mean, you're basically, if you have the right prompts and you've got a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit of time set aside, it can actually be kind of fun to be like, okay, what are all these different, sides of me? We'll link in the show notes to some fun brainstorming exercises, but it's in that, this Caitlin on our team says, like, I love this phrase, like, give yourself the luxury of a writing process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's in that sort of time that you spend where you find stuff like the Cheetos delivery thing or the rock, paper, scissors. And if you just rush to pick the first topic and get this thing done, you might get lucky, but you might not come up with some of these things like my signature sriracha sour cream sauce.
And I think there's a lot of students who write about cooking also. And I think this is a good example of getting really specific about it's not just cooking, but again, it's invention that serves community.
Totally. Yeah. It's family, it's community, it's connection, it's invention, it's experimentation. He says, I love this. Cooking 3-course meals is my way of spending uninterrupted time with my parents.
Yeah.
We have cause for celebration. Yeah.
And even just like sourdough bread with veggie turkey, like that's just another little dropping in a little thing about who he is, that he's a vegetarian, like it doesn't matter, but it's interesting to the reader.
Yeah,
Details are interesting.
And again, it's like, if we wonder why, like, where is all this leading? Here's an option for your insight at the end of the paragraph is like, bring it home with a value. He says, food, like magic, in case you were wondering what the connection was. In case you were wondering, I'd wandered too far off topic, is my offering to my community. It's like,
beautiful.
Got it. Glue.
Beautiful.
And then here at the end, he's got that beautiful turn. I saw you smile when you were reading it. Each new trick, each discovery has been an essential way I bring vivacity to my life. But of all my tricks, my favorite is this essay. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
Love it. Love is self-reference in an essay.
Yeah. The words in this essay have been my red cards. Performing magic is the part I've made you focus on. You've just been fooled by a classic misdirect. For although magic has been in my life for so long, what I dream of doing professionally is becoming a neurosurgeon. And this is the sixth sense moment, right?
Yeah.
Where we're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You see dead people, like, and our brain goes hurtling back through the essay to be like, was this there all along?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, of course, this same skill set.
And if it wasn't there all along, connect the details, because the reader's probably not going to go back combing through.
Yeah.
So he's like questioning why people make the choices they do. So there's connection to psychology. Taught me to approach life with attention to detail, dexterity, and care. Value, value, value. And inspired me to invent with passion. Value, value. And it's like in that one sentence, here are 6 values or 6 skills that are going to serve me in my future career. And it just like goes, we get it.
Yeah.
Surprising and inevitable.
So good.
It was there all along. And then he mentions his career at the end. Now, what I love about this, at the very end, I'm addicted to the adventure and journey of making my own creations, something I'll continue to do vigorously in the ever-evolving field of neuroscience. He ends with this particular word, neuroscience, which was his major. That last word that he lands on, there's this, I don't know if you call it recency bias or something. It's like the last thing we hear is the thing that sort of echoes in our mind. And it's this notion of neuroscience, which reminds us, okay, cool. This is yes, this has been an essay about magic, but really it's about his curiosity and how it's going to manifest in the world, including neuroscience. And then it's like, okay, you'll find out more about that in, separate essay.
Yeah, absolutely. So delightful.
So delightful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was so warm too when I reached out to him to be like, hey, can I use your essay? He's like, yeah, of course. It's great to hear from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reflections, final thoughts on this one?
I just be you. Just like do your thing. And I think, he didn't start doing magic because he wanted to get into college. Started doing magic because he loved it.
Yeah.
So I don't know who's listening to this, but if you're at the, if you're younger at the beginning of your journey, or even if you're coming up to be in your senior year, like what can you do this summer that you're just going to love doing?
Yeah.
Because that's what makes you write about something passionately. I always think about how like Ian McKellen and Judi Dench, they were never like, we're going to be famous actors. They're like, we just going to do theater together in a basement somewhere in England.
Right.
You just do what you love and it ends up becoming your story.
Yeah.
And I think the most exciting essays are the ones where you really feel the love.
Totally. And it can come from something that's right in front of you too.
Right in front of you. Yeah.
It's like, well, I've spent a lot of time doing this.
Yeah.
But can I really write about it? And I hope this is like a permission giving. It's like, yes, you can even write about something that you just love doing a lot.
I just did an essay once about skateboarding.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know that it occurred to her before because she just does it every day. It's just a way to like get around.
Maybe we'll do that one. Maybe we'll do another one where we talk about that, because I know the one you're talking about.
It was great. Yeah.
We'll do the part 2 of this one. We'll do the skateboarding essay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sitting with me. This is so fun.
Yeah, you get bogged down. Like we just closed out Stanford, it's the end of the season and you get bogged down in the stuff of it. So it's really nice to just revisit these and just revisit the joy.
Yeah.
And the process was there. These were not easy.
Yeah.
But they stuck with it and they really found the joy and the delight.
Something I haven't asked you is, this is year, I don't know, 10 or 12. Like, what keeps you coming back to this work?
Well, it's actually from the time I started it, it's like year 18.
Wow.
Right? Because it would have been, or 16. It keeps me coming back is I like to be a little guide. I like to hold the light for students in a super crazy, stressful time of their life, and be just like a weird hippie lady with purple hair. Like, you're cool. Your story's amazing, and just like help them really. Like, I love we just keep talking about until I see it click.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel for you? Oh yeah, that's really cool. I never thought about that. Like that I still get off on that. I still get off on that moment of me being able to see something the student would never see, and then they get excited to write about it. Yeah. So it's a brutal process. And I think brutal processes need to have heart at the center. They need to have a like reminder of why you're doing this. Like, because on some level, you're telling a story about who you are that's going to feed you. It's not about getting into college. It's about going through a process to be able to speak yourself, speak your truth, speak your joy.
Yeah. I really see that in you. And you do that for me. You know, you've done that for me ever since we met years ago. And I really appreciate that quality in you. And I really resonate with it too. It's like, I think of it as spelunking sometimes. We're like diving into these caves, and we've got these, I think of it too as a little flashlight. We've each got a little flashlight. We're like poking around in the corner, like, what's there? Yeah. What's there? What do you see? We pick up a rock. What is that? A gem? No, it's just a rock. You know, sometimes though it's a gem. And it's so like, it's as complex and surprising as life itself. Sometimes even it's a little better.
Yeah. And dance is like life distilled.
Yeah. And it's the meaning making too of the whole thing, where we get to like create the stories that we choose. So
that's it. The meaning making, the helping someone to see meaning in what they've experienced that they don't see. Because they're just living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. Thanks for doing this work with me.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Thanks, friends, as ever, for listening. You'll find the show notes at collegeessayguide.com/podcast, including the text of these essays if you want to read them. If you're interested in more from CEG, you can sign up for anything at collegeessayguide.com, and we'll share with you our latest free resources, info on upcoming webinars, and lots more. Thanks, friends, and stay curious.